Hello students, this is Mrs. Nitty and today's topic is the thesis statement and using information. So far, what we have looked at for our research paper has included an introduction to the research paper that we had in our live CC last week. Then we had information seeking strategies that we discussed yesterday, and we also had a lesson on informal versus formal writing. If you haven't viewed those those recordings yet, you do want to go back and watch those CCs because those are very, very important to your knowledge of writing your research paper. Also, I want to remind you that you do need to submit your topic, perspective, and at least 3 resources to the discussion from lesson 5.12 for approval. You do need to have my approval on your topic before you continue. Today, as I said, we're going to look at thesis statements and using information, including citations. Okay, creating a thesis statement, structuring your paper. And this is so hugely important. I think one of the reasons that some students struggle with with writing a research paper or really writing any paper is because they lack structure. But when you put together a good thesis statement, and I'm going to show you how to do that, when you put together a good thesis statement, your paper practically writes itself. So, what do I need? What information do I need? By when I say I mean you. So, what information do you need? Well, you have your topic and you have your perspective, and you're going to see very quickly here why that is important. And then you should have at least 3 broad pieces of information. So for me, I have my topic, Franklin D. Roosevelt. I have my perspective. He was the most influential president despite suffering from polio. And then the 3 broad pieces of information, and this is some information that I kind of thought of. This is what I want to write more about. And also from some of the research that I've done, is first of all, he led the United States out of the Great Depression. He was instrumental in victories during World War II, and he was a humanitarian. So then what I want to do is I want to take my topic, and then I want to take my claim, which is my perspective, and then I want to take my 3 points of support. So these things are going to provide structure for my paper by telling the reader the main points that you're going to cover and in what order they appear. And it acts as a roadmap to your paper. So it's a roadmap in that it guides you in writing your paper, but it's also a roadmap that acts for the reader in helping them read and understand your paper. Where are you going with your paper? And when you have a thesis statement, if you keep checking back and referring back to the thesis statement to make sure that you're not going off track, it's very, very helpful. So structure is important. So here's the structure of our paper, not unlike a house. We have a thesis statement with our topic, claim, 3 points of support, and then we have our section information with claims, support, and explanations, and then we have our conclusion. And what happens if we don't have support? If we don't have structure? Well, then we end up having major fails. Major fail. Major fail and major fail. And we have this, these all lack structure, but the other thing is, they lack planning. Clearly, they did not plan ahead. But most importantly, there is poor structure. So let's take a look here again at the topic statement, at the thesis statement formula. Again, we have a topic, whatever our topic is, we have our claim or our perspective, and then we have our 3 points of support. So let me see if I can go back here. If I go back to what I have here as my topic, my perspective and my 3 points of support, what I can do, this is practically a thesis statement in itself. So what I can do then is take that information and I can put it into, whoops, it should say Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the most influential president despite suffering from polio because he led the United States out of the Great Depression. He was instrumental in Allied victories during World War II, and he was a great humanitarian. Should be a period at the end of that sentence there, but I messed up here. It should say President Roosevelt. So if maybe you don't have your information laid out as clearly as I do, but you really kind of should. Or you're not really sure about how to put your information together as a thesis statement. Well, guess what, guys? There's an app for that. And the app that I use, or the application, the website that I use is the thesis statement generator. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here we have the thesis statement, thesis builder, I guess, is what it's called. And it's Tom March's thesis builder. So, if you look at this particular website, you can also see that it has, you can, if you're not sure about your topic yet, which at this point you should be pretty confident about your topic. And then, of course, create a good thesis statement. And we can also generate an outline right off of our thesis statement. So we're going to take a look at that as well. So I'm going to click on the thesis statement builder here, and it gives us some instructions and answer the following questions in short phrases, not full sentences. Don't use periods. Click on build a thesis when you're ready. And what happens all the time when I do this is I have to modify the thesis statement a little bit. It doesn't always look fantastic right off the get-go, but yeah, we'll take a look at this. So, what's your topic? Franklin, I'm just going to put Franklin Roosevelt. What's your main opinion? Well, this here is my perspective. So I can take that right off of the information that I have, and I'm just going to go back here, and I'm going to copy it because, well, frankly, I'm lazy. Copy it. Was the most influential president. Okay, so here is my information. Okay, so these are the two. It's actually only going to let me do two here. So he led us out of the Great Depression. And actually, I'm going to take this off because this is actually going to be the argument against. What's the second good argument here? Well, he was instrumental in Allied. And note with this Allied victories, note in this particular format, it doesn't let me give it doesn't give me an opportunity to say that he was a humanitarian. So, it kind of looks like we only have 3 different paragraphs, but I'm going to show you a way around that. So, what's the topic? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. What's your main opinion on this topic? Was the most influential president? I'm going to get rid of this right now. What's the strongest argument? Well, he led us out of this Great Depression. What's a second good argument that supports your opinion? Well, he was instrumental in Allied victories. I'm just going to put the small I here. What's the main argument against your opinion? Well, he suffered from polio. So let's see what's a possible title for your essay. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So let me see what happens here when I click on build a thesis. And let's see what it says. Even though, okay, let me fix that. let me try that again. Note the wording wasn't quite right. So here, when I click on build a thesis, even though Franklin Roosevelt suffered from polio, should say he was the most influential president because he was instrumental in Allied victories during World War II, and he led us out of the Great Depression. So, one thing I'm going to have to do with my thesis statement is I'm going to have to fix that a little bit because it's not worded quite the way I want it to be worded. But the other thing that you can do here is you can create an outline. So when I click on create an outline, it shows me what information I need to have. So first of all, it's going to have me talk about how Roosevelt suffered from polio. And with this, it's kind of like, that seems pretty narrow, but, maybe what I need here is some background information and then information on his polio. Then the second section or paragraph, it talks about being instrumental in Allied victories, and then this is not quite in the right order. I would want to have that he led us out of the Great Depression first because that happened first chronologically, but at least this gives you a good idea of what to do, and it also helps you with a conclusion. So it has a thesis statement and then, pretty much everything that you need for your paper. Begin with an interesting quotation related to your opinion about Franklin Roosevelt. You need a transition here and the intro paragraph with your thesis statement. And then it just goes on from here. So once I've corrected the wording on my thesis statement, this is what I have. Even though Franklin Roosevelt suffered from polio, he was the most influential president because he led the United States out of the Great Depression and was instrumental in Allied victories during World War II. So now, like I've said to you, once you have your thesis statement together, your paper practically writes itself. And even without the outline, basically you can make a very simple outline so that we know exactly where we're going with the paper. So I'm going to have my introduction first with a thesis statement. Then my first section or my first body paragraph is going to be about how he suffered from polio. So basically the background of his life, where he was born, who his parents were, what his early political career was like, and then the fact that he suffered from polio. And then my second section is going to be about how he led the United States out of the Great Depression, because like I said, that was next chronologically. And then he was instrumental in Allied victories during World War II. And then we want our conclusion. Then, for each body paragraph, what we're going to be doing is we're going to make a claim, and this is going to be in your own words, and this becomes your topic sentence. Then you want to use a quote from your research to support your claim, and this is going to be a quote from your source. And then you're going to explain how your statement supports your claim, and this is your own words. And I said this in the CC before, but basically what this ends up being is you have two sentences that are in your own words, and this is very important, two sentences in your own words, and then one sentence that is either a quote or a paraphrase from your research, so that 30% of your paper, can't do this here either, 30% of your paper is quoted information or paraphrased information, and then 70% is your own words. And like I said, every paper goes through an automatic plagiarism checker, and if I see that more than 30% of your paper is not in your own words, it comes up as a percentage, then we're going to have an issue here, and you may not get credit for what you're writing. So be very, very careful with that. So let's see this in action. Let's see exactly what I mean. Claim, quote, and explanation. All right, so I first need to make a claim. So this is my own words. This is what I'm saying. This is what I have figured out after reading a lot of the information. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a healthy child and young man before he contracted polio. Then this is information that I got, and this is paraphrased information. So this blue part here is some information that I got from my research. So then I use a quote from my research to support my claim, and I can choose either to quote from the source, and by quoting I mean word for word. I take and copy and paste it word for word, or I paraphrase. In this case, I am paraphrasing from my source. I'm putting it into my own words. However, because this has specific information, he came down with polio in August of 1921 when he was just 39 years old. Since those are both very specific pieces of information that I didn't know about before I read it, I have to put in a citation. So this is the in-text citation that you're going to be using. This is the format that you're going to be using, and this is MLA formatting, which you're going to be learning more about next week. And basically, this is just a very simple way of, and sort of a space effective way of citing your sources. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. So then once I have my information from my source, then I need to explain how my statement supports my claim in my own words. So again, these are my own words. And this is what I said. He still had many good years left and a promising political career ahead of him, sorry. So for each paragraph, you should have at least 3 pieces of information to support your topic statement. You will need to structure your paragraph in a way that you have smooth transitions within your paragraph, transitioning from one point to another. Well, what do I mean by that? Okay, so here I have this information that I was just going through with you in the colored letters. So then what I've done is I've added more information. So this would be my total body paragraph. So what I have then, however, that's a transition word. Roosevelt had difficulties considering his future. And then I'm quoting directly from my source. And I know that it's quoting directly from it because I'm using quotation marks. The illness left his legs completely paralyzed and brought on a deep depression. And then here again, I'm explaining. This is my explanation. He did not think he could continue with his promising career. And then I have another point of support with a transition word. Fortunately, his wife Eleanor and a good friend, Lois Howe, encouraged Roosevelt to stay active in politics. And note that I just included part of the information and I put that in quotation marks, and again I have my resource. And oops, I should have one more sentence that kind of covers that, and then the last sentence that I want to have in this particular paragraph is a transition sentence from this paragraph to my next paragraph. Let's talk a little bit about citations. You need 2 things when citing a source. Number 1, and this is the one that students often forget because this is kind of new for you, to put an in-text citation right where your quote is. And then number 2, make sure that there is a corresponding entry in your works cited page. So let's take a look at that. So here we have our in-text citation. And again, it's put in parentheses. And I have, this is actually the name of the article that I used. And this information, and I'm going to put down in the lesson here, I'm going to put a research paper guide that I want you to take a look at because it's going to answer a lot of questions that I may have missed or maybe the lessons missed for your research paper. And guys, whether or not you read it, whether or not you memorize word for word and go through and with a fine-tooth comb and hang on every word that's in there or not, you're still reliable, you're still responsible for this information. So, if you tell me I didn't read the research paper guide, well, you're still responsible for that information, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so this information is on page 10 of the research paper guide. Okay, so then we want to have a works cited entry. So in the works cited entry, the first thing we have is the name of the article. If we had an author for this article, the author's name would go first, and then we have the complete information for this particular works cited entry. And one of the things that you can do a couple of things. Because I got this information off of the database, and let me see if I still have that up here. No, I don't. So I got this information from the database, but let me go back in here, Dakota County Library. Oops, I could have gotten right to research tools, biography. And let's pull up FDR again. And it was this particular article that I was looking at. And one of the fancy, fun, wonderful things about this here is I have citation tools. And it's going to show me MLA 8th edition. And this is exactly what I did is I copied this word for word and I put it in my in-text and my works cited entry. And that's exactly what I have. Now, the other thing you can do, I'm just going to X out here, the other thing you can do is you can use a citation generator. And the citation generator that I like to use is citefast.com. And when you first go into citefast.com, and it's just citefast.com, it pops up and it gives you information for APA formatted citations. Well, that's not what I want. I want MLA citations. And then I have the option, I can have a web page, I can have a book, I can have journals. One thing that I really like about books is that you can type in the ISBN number, the ISBN, uh, it's like a barcode on the back of a book, and it's going to give you the exact name of a book. So let me just show you an example, and hopefully this is going to come up. Whoops, and it would be helpful if I actually had the number lock on. Okay, and then if I search for it, ta-da! It's the Iliad and the Odyssey. Whoops. From which is the book that we're using to read the Iliad and the Odyssey. So that's what I really like about this. But I'm just going to get rid of this. And I'm going to go to my web page. No, I do not want to save it. And let's just say that I go to National Institute of Mental Health. So we'll take a look at health topics and we'll click on anxiety disorders. That's what we looked at the other day. And let's say I used some information from this particular source. Well, one of the things that I can do is I can just copy the website information. I can go to my MLA citation, citefast.com. I have to make sure I pick web page, and I'll just type in, so I just copied and pasted the URL, and then it comes up with the information for me for the citation. And I don't think that there's any author. We looked at that before. However, there was a date that this was updated, which was July of 2018. So we do want to make sure that it is modified. So no date, but July of 2018. And then when I save the citation, it has that information. And it's going to show me how I should put it with my in-text citations. And then it's going to show me how it should look on my works cited page. So here it has the correct formatting, the correct font, the correct spacing, hanging indent, and all I have to do is select that, copy it, and then paste it and put it in my research paper. So pages 12, 13, and 15 with research paper guide is going to help you with this information. And then note that the rest of the guide shows specific formatting for each type of resource. Some of you talked about having a personal interview as a resource. It's going to show you there's a specific way to format that. And I'm not going to be really picky about that, but I do want to make sure, ooh, I didn't double space this as my example here, but I do want to make sure that it is formatted correctly, and we're going to be talking about formatting next week. Now, one of the things that I want to make sure that you understand is the difference between plagiarism and not plagiarism. So both of these paragraphs say the same thing, and this is just another example that I pulled actually off of the student's paper. Diamond mining has fueled much of the expansion and currently accounts for 1/4 of the GDP, gross domestic product, approximately 85% of export earnings, and about 1/3 of the government's revenues. This is plagiarism. Why is it plagiarism? Well, let's look at the example that is not plagiarized. Same thing exactly, word for word. However, the thing that makes it not plagiarism, two things. Number one, this particular entry has quotation marks around it. And when it's quotation marks, when there are quotation marks, we know that this information is word for word, copied exactly from the website. And that's fine as long as you do put it in quotation marks, and then you need to have the in-text citation, which is this. And then for the works cited page, so this, when you do this, make sure you have a new page. This is a new page. This is the full information of the entry, the works cited entry for your works cited page. So for each entry that you have on your works cited page, I should be able to go into your essay and find the corresponding in-text citation. So that means you are only using information, you are only using sources that you actually used in writing your paper. You're not going to be listing every book or website that you looked at. So if I see this, if I see a works cited entry, but I don't see a corresponding in-text citation, you're going to get marked off for that. You need to have both. So here again is the cite fast generator. All right. Avoiding plagiarism. And I know you guys watched that little video yesterday where the teacher was going, wah, 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 wah. Your teacher lectured you about plagiarism. Wah, 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 wah. Well, full disclosure, this is what I'm going to do right now. This is my lecture to you on plagiarism, avoiding plagiarism. Plagiarism is the representation of another's ideas or writing as his own. A deliberate attempt on the part of the student to pass off as his own writing or ideas of another person, student, parent, published or unpublished author, etc. So, even if you copy your brother's paper that he submitted last year and call it your own, yeah, that's plagiarizing too, even if your brother let you borrow it. Still plagiarism. And the other thing is I'm going to know it because K-12 has a database of all papers that have been submitted to K-12 in the past. And this has come up a couple of times. So yeah, if you're using your brother's paper, yeah, not going to work. It's also a failure to acknowledge indebtedness to outside material that results from students' lack of attention to proper procedures for documentation. And that's what the guy talked about yesterday, saying, sometimes plagiarism is not deliberate. You just have to make sure that you cite what you need to cite. This is from page 7 of the research paper guide. Rules of research, page 4, avoiding plagiarism. If you use anything that comes from outside of you, an idea, music, art, photograph, works, research, etc., you must cite it. When in doubt, should I cite this? Shouldn't I cite this? I don't know. When in doubt, if you're having that debate in your head, cite it. Both direct quotes, words copied from the text, word for word, and paraphrased information, information that you have put into your own words, must get an in-text, or we also call them parenthetical citation. Direct quotes must be word for word and placed inside quotation marks. Direct quotes must not exceed 40 words. You can do a block quotation, however, I don't want you guys to go over 40 words because you have so few words in this essay anyway. If you're going to get a quote of 40 words or over, that's going to be a big chunk of your essay. Because you have citations in your paper, you must include a works cited page as the last page of your paper, and absolutely do not make up sources, quotes, datas, citations, or anything else, because I will check your resources, and I have in the past. Especially if I'm reading something and I'm like, that doesn't sound quite right. And then I will look at the resource, what you've put for your in-text citation and your works cited entry, and I will go to that resource to find that information. And sometimes what I catch is, a student who maybe mistyped, forgot a word, whatever. But sometimes it's like, no, the student just totally made that information up. It happens. It happens. Okay, so next we're going to talk about citing evidence again. Yeah, and I'm going to go more specifically into that information. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you take the quiz at the end of this lesson. Thanks. Bye now.